Welcome to episode 2 of my podcast, My Guide to a Good Life. I had many questions from you asking, what do I recommend for a specific condition? Now, I find that hard to answer. But that was also the mindset of my mother in the 60s and 70s when she used to go around in pharmacies and not asking the pharmacists, but the salespeople what they would recommend for conditions like sinusitis or indigestion or gas, or it could be anything. The answer is there's never one thing. The most important is to avoid foods that are harmful. For example, too many pastries, too many empty carbs. With toast and butter, no protein, cereals, a lot of soft drinks. These are the things you should avoid first before thinking of how to treat your problem. One thing that I can easily say to you that would treat a lot of your problems is to exercise. Just walking 30 minutes a day can help you generate some good vibes and it will help you generate endorphins. It will help you feel better. And it doesn't matter where or when. If the climate is not favorable at the time you want to walk, and this is what I did in Los Angeles because the summers were very hot. I went to a shopping mall and I walked there before the shops opened. There were 3 levels. I did, I think, 4 or 5 rounds. And there were lots of people doing the same. So we chatted and we had coffee after, and it was good. It's better than staying home thinking, what should I do if I had half an hour to kill? You will also lose weight because you are moving and you are generating energy. So that's one thing all of you could do without even thinking of food or what to take. Because supplements cannot help you to fix a problem. Think about it. If you're eating food that is not nutritious and you're adding supplements might only do 10% of the good they're supposed to do. And it irritates me when I hear people talking on the radio or on TV and answering questions from people who call in with their problems. They will always recommend a supplement. So this is not advice. This is merely advertising. And I feel like going over there and wringing their necks because they are being deceitful. Yes, curcumin, glucosamine, aloe vera, all of these things may help you. And now I'm hearing that you have to drink olive oil. Why? You have enough virgin cold-pressed olive oil. You don't need to drink it. It's not going to help you in any way. So please be alert that advertising of supplements, 99% of them are not telling you the truth. You need to take control and cut out foods that are not good for you. I'll go back to my life in Sydney because I want to give you hope. It's the mid-80s now, and I was on maternity leave and about to go back to work. And what happened to me was very traumatic and devastating. I was going through premature menopause. This was happening over a year, and the doctors didn't realize or didn't connect that someone in their 30s would be going through menopause. But it was happening to me. I had no energy. I was crying at every little, for no reason at all. My hair was thinning, my skin was dry, and these were the least devastating effects of it. I honestly didn't know what was going on until it was diagnosed. Now, before this happened, I was continuing with two things that Dr. Walker recommended, and that's all I did. Having fruit before breakfast, a couple of glasses of water at least then, and having a salad before dinner. But I still was eating too much rice. During the time of my symptoms of premenopause, food was the last thing on my mind to try and control. When I went on HRT, I found my life back again, and I thought everything would be going well. But what happened was, I started to put on weight. I was feeling good, I was eating more. Originally, before my menopause was diagnosed, I was just under 45 kilos. And then I put on another 5 kilos, which would be 50 kilos, nearly 110 pounds. So my waist was expanding. I went from a size 6 or 8 to size 12, and I was on the way to size 14. Not only that, yes, I was feeling better with HRT, but my moods were rotten. I would come home from work irritated, especially when Lionel didn't make enough rice. I would scream at him. That's why he's called Poor Lionel. Now, all these symptoms, feeling sluggish, poor concentration, not enough sleeping, and I had a child to look after. What was happening to me? I was not paying attention to what I was eating. So the alarm bells started ringing. This was not me. This could not be happening. I have to do something. What I started to do first, I went back to Dr. Walker's books and reread Colon Health. And I looked at his illustrations of how food was digested, and I started to get a little bit more serious about what I was preparing for food. The other thing I did, he said, look at the people around you. So being in a hospital, and naturally, the areas around the hospital, there were pharmacies, X-ray clinics, pathology clinics, specialist centers. So at lunchtime, when I would go out, I would see people walking slowly. They were not that old. Some needed help with a person by their side to cling on to. And they were clutching their X-ray films. And then I also observed the people I worked with, especially my managers and those higher up. They didn't look well. They were never happy. They hardly smiled. And I said, that was another indication what was happening to them. Do I want to be like this? And I resolved to do 3 things. I said, I never wanted to rely on drugs to stay alive. I never want to be helped out of a car. And I never want my brain to go dead and not to have that alertness and creativity. And also not to be happy. I wanted to walk around smiling. I did not walk around like 90% of the people were walking around the streets with their head down, slowly taking one step at a time. That was not what I wanted to be. I did not have goals of being rich, having beautiful homes, or driving an expensive foreign car. I just wanted not to be like the people around me. That takes time, and I promise you, for me to get on the right portions of protein, fats, carbohydrates, sodium, calcium, minerals, vitamins, it took me 5 to 6 years. And when that happened, my desire for sugar, for salt, for junk food disappeared. And now, if you showed me a bowl of grapefruit cut up and a bowl and a cake that's luscious with chocolate sauce dripping, I would pick the grapefruit. I may take the cake home and have it at the time when it's not too soon after a meal. I will give you a few ideas for what you can have for breakfast as a start. My days were alternating between rolled oats and, say, bananas, nuts. So that's mainly carbohydrates. The rolled oats had a lot of vitamin B and iron. The nuts gave me fiber. And bananas helped to sustain me and keep me full till at least 10 or 11 o'clock. My day started at work from 8 and sometimes at 9 because I made it a point to walk before I go to work. So that was one breakfast I had. The other breakfast I had would be mainly protein, would be eggs or cheese or yogurt. And I would have it with a couple of slices of toast. So there's my protein done and my vitamin B and carbs done every other day. At work, we had a habit of having coffee at around 11. And we had so many beautiful coffee bars and cappuccinos. So we'd walk up, get our cappuccino, and everyone had a pastry with it. That was me as well. One day, when for some reason we didn't have any pastry with the coffee, and I drank my cappuccino, about 20 minutes or half an hour later, I was full. And I thought, well, if that's filling me up, why did I have to have a pastry with a coffee? And I thought of something else. If you want to have a pastry with your coffee, I'll give you an idea. Just have half milk. In other words, don't fill your cup full of milk. Because I have full fat, I don't believe in having low fat of anything. That half a cup of coffee, half a milk of coffee, and a pastry which I cut in half and I shared it with someone else. That helped me lose some weight. And you'll be surprised how much that keeps adding just to take away a few things like this. I did drink more water. I did bring nuts to work, like almonds and walnuts, and I used that as a snack. For lunch, I would have very, very basic, simple ingredients. Rye, sourdough, full grain, either avocado with it, and always I added lettuce or tomato or cucumbers. Then I'd have chicken, or I would have cheese, but I never mixed them. I had this thought, and this wasn't in any books, and you will not find a dietitian telling you this, because their idea is, as long as you have good food, it will all be taken by your small intestine, all the good things will be taken. But I thought of it this way. Why must we mix our food with so many different types of protein, for example? Avocado is a raw fruit. There's nothing added. It's not been cooked or messed up. If I added chicken with it, I'm adding a protein. And I think being processed in the stomach might take longer. And by doing this, I saved the time it took to digest my meals. And therefore, it would not slow my metabolism, because slowing your metabolism might slow down the way you're burning your fats, and that could put on weight. Now, you may want to take this suggestion, or you may not. It's entirely up to you. Let's say you are having a meal with a lot of starch, like rice, potatoes, pasta, or bread. Eat less meat protein with it. Yes, you can have vegetables. If you are having a meal with a lot, let's say you're having a large steak or a lot of chicken, then cut down on the starch. When you have too much protein and too much starch, it's not good for your metabolism and your digestion. So just try and regulate that amount. I loved rice because I needed more, because I added chilies to it. And when you add something spicy, it stirs up the acids in your stomach and it makes you hungrier. So you might have to cut down. And I took, 2 years to cut down my rice. When I first started, I felt I took away perhaps too much, half of what I normally ate. I felt terrible. And I couldn't sleep because I was still hungry. So I said, no, this can't work. I'll just cut down 10%. And when I cut down 10%, it was okay. And I tried to control that urge to have that bit more. And then I got used to it. And I cut down 20%, 30%. Some days I went back on, because honestly, you do succumb to these cravings. And I am sure you can do it this way. Diets should not control you, but if you're thinking logically, and if you have this goal of doing better, you can. And no matter what your tradition or culture tells you you should cook, you can modify that by just using some thought into what you're eating. And hopefully your family can adapt to that as well. The other thing I did, I stopped having sugar. And I stopped having sugar in all my drinks 30 years ago. It was difficult. I missed it. But the thought of people I would see being ill, they gave me that drive to not to be like this. And it's not saying this to make them, not saying this in a bad way. It was just an observation I made. Took away the sugar. That helped me lose weight. I stopped having soft drinks. I had another habit of having a cup of tea with some biscuits, say 2 hours after dinner before I went to bed. Maybe it could have been a non-caffeinated tea, but that was a habit I stopped. I stopped having ice cream. I substituted for cream or yogurt. Chilled, it's just as tasty. I had dry fruits, which, to remove the sugar, I soaked them overnight in water. The sugar is removed. I threw the water away. And incidentally, the water is a good, gentle laxative if you need one. So I throw the sugar away. I had dry fruits with cream and a few nuts. You have to think, what are you eating that's going to help your colon? Because when the colon has the fiber and water, and it's getting rid, and it's able to get rid of the stuff that it doesn't like, then you will have a colon that's resilient. Dr. Walker didn't know anything about microbiomes or probiotics. He didn't mention the word virus. It was, in those days, bacteria, colds and coughs, but the same chronic diseases. And now we are learning a lot more. Now we are learning that a colon that's healthy will even keep your mind healthy. A colon that's healthy will protect you from viruses. For example, you have a cold, and sometimes it develops into a cough, and you may need to take antibiotics or you may not. If you are healthy, you will recover from this very quickly. And I'm telling you the honest truth. For 30 years, I have never taken antibiotics for anything. Of course, I can't relate my situation with you, and I can't tell you, if you do what I do, you will avoid taking antibiotics. You're different. But it helps you when you're suffering from any condition, when you're under treatment with drugs. A healthy colon will help you recover faster. It will also give you a better attitude. Another thing, I know all of you think that soft drinks with 0 sugar is the way to go. You won't put on weight. But you know, your brain doesn't know that you're having stevia. Your brain knows you love sugar, and your brain will tell you you need sugar. And that puts you back on this spiral of wanting things that are sweet. So, can I make a suggestion? Don't have 0 sugar drinks. If you want to wean yourself off sugar in soft drinks, have less of it. Can you dilute it? I know it sounds terrible to dilute a glass of Coke. And someone actually told me I'm an idiot. But it's just a suggestion. You can't fool your brain. It is conditioned from what you are eating. And if you actually give yourself time from your dinner, for example, and waited half an hour or an hour if you've had a big meal, you will not feel like having any dessert. You will feel full. I couldn't wait for that hour. And we were so tempted with buffets, and especially on cruise ships. Everything's there, and you start eating and eating, and then after 2 hours, you will feel horrible. It takes discipline. Now, you have the discipline to get up and go to work. You have the discipline to pick up your children from school on time. So a little bit more exercise for yourself will pay you so much in health. You don't want to be useless as you get older. You want to be someone that has that wisdom, that experience to pass on to people who need it. So keep yourself alert and keep yourself well enough. These little things that you do will give you the results. I read a book called Longevity by the author Luigi Fontana, and I'm quoting from his book. He says, "Do not despair if you're currently overweight." He says that the data they have collected indicates that even people are overweight or obese can live healthier lives by just regulating the amount of food they eat and the type of food they eat. And doing exercise by walking, or if you are near a gym, just go there just join. Go there when you think it's quiet. If you don't like to be among people, just go there, go on the treadmill and just do an hour. It is going to help you. I promise you, doing this every day, it will make you feel better, because when you start to feel better, if you've done a few positive things towards improving your health, it will give you that motivation to do more. And importantly, don't let anyone deter you from your goals. You might hear that it'll be almost impossible. Why do you can't lose weight? You're already this overweight, you can't do it. But ignore that. You can. It may take months and years, but you will feel a lot better in yourself if you start. I have another bit of advice when choosing what you are eating. Your goal is to get your food digested faster. You don't want to slop in a chair after a meal and wait till that feeling disappears so you can get up again and do your work. You can indulge when you want to. You can have your cakes when you want to at the right time. You don't need to cut yourself out from anything. The importance of having that fresh salad before dinner will make you feel much better when you do have your meal. The theory of keeping your colon free of anything that's remaining there without enough fiber to be eliminated, think about, is this good for my colon? Your colon or your gut will be the most important organ in your body that will dictate to you how you feel, how you look, how productive you are, and how you can then remove yourself from all of this food that's around you and think, I don't need this. Stay away from alcohol if you can. Of course, smoking, we all know that, but there are addictions like sugar is. Everything can be accomplished if your attitude is right and if your goals if you're firmly focused on your goals. I've said a lot in this podcast, and I'll be happy to answer your questions, so please leave them, and I'll hope to see you again in episode 3.